Hi students. In the next class, you're going to read a nonfiction article on the topic of the Harlem Renaissance. Knowing the following words will help you make sense of what you read and answer questions. As you watch this video, stop to take notes on the definition and answer a few prompts to deepen your understanding of each word. Okay, let's take a look at the first word. This word is outset. Outset. The word outset means the start of something. Here's a picture of two people starting a journey, like a hike. So you could say, at the outset of our hike, we were hopeful that the weather would be good. Outset, the start. Stop now and take notes on your definition of the word outset, and also think about a word that could mean something different than the outset or the opposite of the word outset. Okay, next is the word improvisation. Improvisation. Improvisation is the act of speaking or performing without preparation. Have you ever seen a performer on stage talk without using a script? They use just anything that comes to their mind. That's improvisation, when you act without a plan. Can you think of a word or phrase that means the same thing as improvisation? Stop the video now to take a little bit of notes. Next, let's look at the word stereotype. Stereotype. Now, you might have heard this word. It gets used a lot in our culture. A stereotype is an overly simple opinion about an individual or group. Stereotypes are often very hurtful to groups of people. There's no image provided with this word because that would be displaying a stereotype that might be hurtful. But think of a way that you might be able to use stereotype in a sentence of your own. Jot that down on your notes before continuing. Okay, next, the word you're going to see in the text is dispel. Dispel. When you dispel something, you make it go away or you make it end. Take a look at these firefighters. They are dispelling the fire. They're using the water to make it go away. On your notes, can you create a visual representation, like a drawing or a graphic that illustrates the concept of dispelling to you? All right, the next word is infestation. Infestation. Now, an infestation is a large number of insects, plants, or animals in a certain area. You can see in this picture that there's a large number of these insects on this plant. Often we use this word when we talk about bugs or insects, but we can also use the word infestation to mean a lot of people moving to an area or a lot of something happening to one certain area. Can you define the word infestation in different words on your notes? Put it into your own words. All right, next is the word diplomat. Diplomat. And a diplomat is someone that represents their country in a foreign land. So there are diplomats from the United States all over the world that go to talk to other countries, to build relationships with other countries. And you can see they're often very formal and they meet in formal spaces. Think about skills that are crucial for a diplomat to have. Can you jot down some of those ideas on your notes? And the last word is another one you might be familiar with. This word is segregation. Segregation. Now, segregation, the definition is the act of separating people based on race, class, gender, or even ethnic group. And as you can see in the visual, there is a line separating this group from this one. All right, segregation is the separation of people. How would you define segregation in your own words? Jot that down on your notes before you continue. Finally, let's take a look at the introduction to the text you're going to read in the next class. This informational text will offer background information about the historical circumstances that led to the Harlem Renaissance. At the turn of the 20th century, populations were becoming increasingly urban. African Americans living in the northern cities faced widespread discriminatory practices by city landlords, and those living in the South dealt with the racism and injustice of Jim Crow laws. This oppression, along with the North's newfound need for factory workers, led to both the Great Migration and a migration within New York City to the welcoming Harlem area. Partially a response to racist stereotyping, and partially to the horror of the First World War, the Harlem Renaissance was an African American-led artistic movement that came to define the 1920s and early 30s and inspired generations of creative minds to come. Watch this short video before responding to a prompt.
Harlem, New York. Brownstones and subway stations. Music and poetry. In the 1920s and 30s, a renaissance occurs that changes first New York City, then the world. Patrons crowd into nightclubs to hear jazz legends like Billie Holiday and Duke Ellington. The roar of the train over 125th Street barely mutes the jazz pouring out of open windows and radios. Harlem becomes home for artists, poets, and activists. Langston Hughes pens poetry. Zora Neale Hurston writes novels and plays. African American artists represent their communities with humanity, dignity, and wit. Marcus Garvey starts a black nationalist movement. James Weldon Johnson becomes first black executive secretary of the NAACP. What elements combine to fuel such a burst in creativity and activism? What new styles and ideas sprang from this exciting movement? How is the influence of the Harlem Renaissance still felt today?
All right, now answer a quick prompt to be fully ready to engage with the text in the next class. Thanks, students.